You're listening to Elite Radio, the podcast for repair shop owners by repair shop owners. Welcome back to Elite Radio. Thanks for joining us in the next episode in our series, In the Coach's Corner, where we focus on highlighting the success and struggles of being a shop owner, as well as the relationships built through coaching. I'm your host, Darrin Barney, and I'm here with Jim Buttita and Greg Buckley. Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys.
It's great. Yeah,
Greg, I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and same thing for you too, Jim. So, Jim, would you mind just telling the audience a little bit about you?
Sure. Grew up in a family automotive business with my dad, and he had 5 sons, so we all kind of did our share through the business. I was the only one that really stuck at it. I think I was a hard head like my dad, so that helped. But we became a small multi-store locations in northern Illinois. I bought the business from my dad in my early 30s and sold the business when I turned 50 and semi-retired. I've been coaching with the lead, I think, since 2015 or 16. I've been a friend of Jim and Sherry Murphy's for years, and he encouraged me to reach out to Bob and start a relationship, and so it's been great and been very rewarding for me to be able to give back to an industry that's given me so much. So.
Yeah, that's great, Jim. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it is 2015. So I went and I looked through all your notes, and I was like, man, 2015, that's amazing. So 8 years of coaching with us, and I've been amazed at the results you get for your clients. And I told Jim this story that, when I was being trained by Bob about how to talk to people that were interested in Elite. And I learned so much about Jim from Bob, and he would tell me, all this stuff about Jim and about his family. And he liked motorcycles, and he liked flying, and he loved traveling, and all this stuff about Jim. And I had never met him, but I knew all this stuff about him. And then when I met him in person, I kind of felt like I was meeting a big rock star because of how Bob had built him up to me. So thank you very much, Jim, for being here and for your work. But Mr. Greg, Mr. Buckley, would you mind doing a little bit of an introduction on yourself too?
Sure. Well, you got Greg Buckley, Buckley's Auto Care. Our family's been in business since 1966. I had the opportunity to my dad started, of course, at a 2-bay gas station, and then we grew to 3-bay, and then we finally in 2006 moved to our current location in Wilmington. And it's been a heck of a great ride. I do a lot of things for the company, the community, and also I'm heavily involved with, our industry and our trade. Love it. It's been the only thing that I have ever really done in my life, actually, in my career. I may have 1 or 2 stints when my dad would fire me, that I would have to go and do something else, like be a laborer or some crap like that. But for the most part, this has been my life for all of it. And I started when I was 8. I'm now 63, and I would not have it any other way because of what this profession does for me in terms of checking all the boxes for fulfillment, both in business and in life. So, I'm a lifer.
That's awesome, Greg. Well, I mean, yeah, you do a lot for the industry too. I mean, not to mention, being a shop owner and a parent, a grandparent, all the things that you got going on. But I mean, you've got your Shop Soup podcast, and you're always talking with other business owners and trying to give back to the industry. And it's one of those things that when you and I were talking years ago about, joining the coaching program and things, I was just like, man, this guy's a legend. I never forget the first time I met you at ASTE, and I'm like, Greg Buckley, oh my goodness, this is so cool because it's somebody I've seen you all over the place, and yeah,
it's all smoke and mirrors. Trust me,
No, some people are gifted with going through life and struggling, and then telling the stories about it. And you're one of those guys that you're not to admit that you've made mistakes and you've grown and improved, and that's what people resonate with because we've all made mistakes. I don't care how good you think
take
you
it
are.
as. Well, I take it as this is all a journey.
It is.
We're going to wake. Hopefully, we're going to wake up the next day, and whatever comes our way, we'll deal with it. We have to, and the thing is to get better at it every day that you have your eyes open. And now what we're involved with is the second location, and I you know could not be happier to have someone like Jim with me through this ride because of his experience. And it's something when you can find when you don't know. Like I had no clue who Jim was until you introduced me to him, and I think it was very very fortunate that Jim had no idea who I was. And we met kind of like on an even plane, and Jim's mannerisms and is the way he approaches a business and what to do has been just what I needed because, I am, I fly around. I am, admittedly, I don't have ADD or ADHD, but I do fly
Not
off every once
diagnosed
in a
anyway, right?
while. I'm not diagnosed correct, but
Right. Yeah.
there's sometimes silver shiny objects will come by, um, and you need to have you need to have somebody that says, "Hey, man, time out, take a look at things," and that's what I need in order to take a family business into the realm of business family enterprise. I mean, the words are swapped, but the definition is so different when you say family business and business family.
Of
So
course. So is that why you reached
that's
out
great.
to Jim though? Was that accountability to help you to handle that second location, or what was the main reason that you reached out to Jim
Yeah,
or
I
to
did. I
us?
mean,
And
well, here's the thing: is that before we got together, I really took a year and a half, and I quote unquote interviewing other coaching companies, and for the most part, everybody would be aware of where I was prior, both as a client and as a coach, for marketing. Um, and that wasn't fitting the bill anymore. The market has changed. I thought that the philosophies were totally different. So I was trialing a few others. And I spent a year and a half to make sure that not only would it be a fit for me, because I knew what I wanted, I had to, I had to become better at what I am.
of course.
The fluffy stuff, the outgoing stuff, that's not going to leave me. But I really need to be better at the numbers and understanding where my business is. On top of that, I had to find somebody or someone or some company that would be appropriate for my son and the third generation. And when we got done everything, I mean, the year trial, we ran into some doozies. I'm not going to lie. I mean, all respect to everybody's type of philosophy and the way they want to run their business. The problem is it's got to fit you. And we ran into a bunch of, square pegs in round holes. And so when we came upon Elite, and I was really referred to by Mike Allen, and I
Mike's a
think
good
we all
guy.
may know Mike Allen, and
Yep.
Mike would just tell me, "Hey, listen, check them out." So we did, and talking to you and Bob Cooper and everybody at Elite on the first interviews, I felt, wow, this is where I want to be. The ethics behind it is critical, and when I showcased Elite's program and philosophies to Scott and the others, they all agreed that if we're going to pursue this, then this
Yeah.
is where we want to be. So that's how I came about getting to know you guys,
Yeah.
and it's been quite enjoyable
I'm
and
glad to hear
profitable.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
Jim is a really gifted guy at being able to kind of work his way through the BS, and helping to guide and point and direct. And I'm curious, Jim, what your thoughts were. When you go with this charismatic guy that literally, I mean, I love following you on Facebook. I really do, because you're always doing stuff, and you've always got these albums, and you're talking about this great music you love and everything else. And I was wondering what Jim actually went through though, as your coach, to try to help you to focus in some of that awesome manic energy that you have that makes Greg Buckley who he is. And I was curious, Jim, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when you think about the auto industry as a whole, well, first off, Greg's not in the automotive business; he's in the people business, in my mind. And he's an advocate for our industry, and our competition isn't his competition isn't the shop down the street. It's Amazon, Best Buy, it's everywhere else people have to spend their monies. Auto parts and auto service is kind of a commodity. I mean, everybody has it, but what does Greg or any shop have that's different is the service and that they can give that client. And and Greg has the ethics and the honesty of what a good shop should be. Then you bring in the dynamics of a family business, which I'm real familiar with, and it can be challenging, and he's juggling a lot of balls and wearing a lot of hats right now. I'd like to take a few of the hats off of Greg, and when I looked at Greg's bio, and I was really amazed at what he was involved in, and so part of my history is I'm a past national president of a national trade association for our industry, National Automotive Radiator Service Association, and I spent a lot of time, energy, and money. Time away from my family, time away from my business, time, money to travel, to give back to my industry. And when I kind of look back at it, it filled something in me. That's really what kind of filled my soul. It wasn't the business, but I do see how my business suffered, in the short term from that relationship of me giving. And Greg has been giving and giving and giving. And, the first thing that Greg and I had to, really have a conversation was on is, giving up a few things and focusing on the business, for a couple of years. I think when I met Greg had no intentions whatsoever of having a second location. I don't know if that was
Yeah,
on his radar at all. And so this year, I mean, he'll double his revenue. I mean, he's got the headaches of two shops now too. Don't get me wrong,
Of course.
so he's got the growing pains of growing and managers and technicians, but, he's on a different path today, and more committed to investing his time in his own business. And, the other thing I was thinking about, everybody that I've coached through Elite, everybody has a different reason. Some people want to make more money. Some people want more time off. Maybe it's the lifestyle they want, and so for a coach, it's trying to figure out what the client really wants out of the life, because
Yeah.
that's what the business is there for, to help them achieve their goals in life. And I got a good understanding of what Greg's goals are, and that helps me, work with Greg and then. So sometimes we don't see eye to eye on his next move, whether whatever it be. But once Greg or the client makes the decision to do it, I'm 100% behind him.
Sure.
It's and so yeah, it's been great. It's about relationships. My relationship with Greg's
Yeah.
relationship with his customers and clients. So
No, Greg's a very relational guy. He's one of those
yes.
guys that, people really like him, and myself included, and it's just fun to be around you. No, it is, Greg. It's a wonderful
Hmm.
thing,
uh,
because it's why you've grown and continue to grow the business as much as you have. But has it been difficult when you have Jim push you on certain things that you need to be doing?
well, I don't know if it's difficult because I really do listen to Jim. Sometimes it
Of
doesn't seem
course.
that way, but one of the things that I've learned how to do is take a step back. If I want to make a decision, don't make it the day of or at that moment. Take a step back and think about it. All right. Think about whether you should pivot this way or that way or what to do, and really start to look at, can you do it? Should you do it? I mean, when we were examining and doing our due diligence on the second location, there was a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. The opportunity was amazing. All right. You could see it from the ground up that this location and what it was, fit me. It's total community. It's in a growing spot, but there were difficulties with the prior owner, and the red flags were all over. He couldn't produce a proper P&L. He didn't know his numbers. He couldn't tell me anything where I could base projections on. I had to make assumptions, and so Jim and I talked about it. And the thing that was, I think, a turning point was where the property was for sale. It wasn't going to be a rental. And I'm not beholden to a landlord. And the property was the asset that I wanted to obtain, because you just don't get 3/4 of an acre in this type of resort area at the price and then add to it, you've got a operating business that is easy to break even on, and all you got to do is think of ways to improve upon. Yes, hurdles, time, you got to acquire talent, and get your cash flows and numbers. But I think that working with Jim, and having that second person, that confidant to talk to analyze things, and then like when I said, I think I'm going to go for this. This sounds really good, and then Jim goes, okay, great. Let's learn how to work it. So we took the time, we did our homework. I talked to the family, and one of the most striking things that I did is I actually worked for the previous owners for about 3 days, just so that I would know that I'm not stepping in a pile of dog poo, and when I saw the activity, that kind of solidified everything for me. And what we were able to look at, and Jim brings, this is what Jim brings to light is, because he's got not only he had the family business, the multiple locations, but he's savvy in real estate. So we could look at, the goal was the property. I mean, literally the asset was there. And so when he presented the fact that, I clearly remember he goes, you realize that you're now a $2+ million operation. And man, that was like a hammer over the head, because you don't think about that when you're just thinking about, all right, I'm going to get another shop, I'm going to grow this, grow that. And then it starts building, and someone presents you with that figure, and you're looking at your numbers and you're going, oh my gosh, he goes, we're going to double your revenue and all this other stuff. Wow. Okay. And at the timing of all this, I've got my granddaughter coming up, and I consider like a fourth generation. The third is the other family, but that compound with what we were going through, I'll tell you what, I had to come to terms with, am I going to be better, or am I going to keep doing what I'm doing and spending time away, not away, mentally away, not in the business, or am I going to get my act together, discipline myself, go through the proper situations in order to secure the future of that fourth generation, plus enjoy the things that I want to do in the future, travel, enjoy the time with my wife, the kids, all of that. So these 2 years that we've been together has been challenging personally, because I'm really not I'm not a
It's okay.
disciplined kind
Yeah.
of guy.
Well,
in
you
a
have a
sense,
coach. It's okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's why I have a coach, right? But it's been so rewarding, because now I feel, and this is what Jim and I talked about, because when the interviews were going on, how do you want to succeed? What do you want to do through this program? And I want to know my numbers. I
Right.
got to be better on understanding what they mean. And although challenging, believe me, it is still, to this day, it's like nails on a chalkboard when I have to wake up Saturday morning or Tuesday morning or whenever and get my reports done.
Yeah.
It's just that way.
Of
But
course.
at the end of the conversation on Tuesday, or whenever Jim and I are meeting, it's like there's a relief there. There's like, okay, you have a better understanding. You've got some questions that you were pointed to. And, it's just been, it's what I needed.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you may not enjoy doing the numbers, but at least now, you've doubled your revenue, so that's just one of the pieces of knowing those numbers and paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And now Jim, as your coach, can come to you and be like, hey, why is your gross profit down on labor? What happened here?
Mm-hmm.
We dropped 4% in 1 week. What happened? And now at least where to find out, what caused that. And you now know what those numbers mean. Before, if I assume you were like a lot of us where we just managed by the checkbook, every day we'd look at our bank account and go, okay, well, it is growing, so we're doing okay, or wow, we keep dropping. What's going on? Where when you got those numbers, you know what they mean, and you're doing it every week, it helps out so much, because you've really got, you can fix those problems before they get out of control. you know?
That's the key point. You can
Yeah.
fix it beforehand. And honestly, beforehand, I would ignore that. I simply would ignore it for two reasons. Why it's depressing if you don't if you watch it, if you know your business. And believe me, the experience that being in the business, you most mature shop owners will have a gut feeling when their crap isn't right, when the ship isn't sailing the right way. You know, compound that with not knowing your numbers, and you're totally lost. You're really lost, and you get to a point where why bother? And that's where I felt I was heading until I I looked at what we went through COVID. We got through all that, and then, like I said before, compound the fact that you got your fourth generation, and I take that as my responsibility. I mean, now it's not my dad's company, it's my company. I'm the patriarch, I'm the legacy builder. And I take that really seriously and really personally, almost to a fault. And Jim will tell you, my habit of bringing in family is sometimes good, sometimes very detrimental.
I've seen that with
And
Jackson, right?
it's with Jackson, but I
I
go by
mean,
a lot of gut, but yet it's the same issues I would have with bringing in somebody as a stranger, except that there's things that stymie me. And Jim and I go through this a lot. This is what family businesses go through is once you bring in a family member, it's almost like, man, I can't say it's a life sentence, but it's almost like a life
it is kind of
sentence.
like a life sentence. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've had to in my journey through this business, I've had two separations
Right.
that really much of like kind of like one was okay. It's my dad. We had to finally convince him to sell,
Sure.
and it wasn't it wasn't bad. It wasn't good. He was kind of hurt. The emotional roller coaster he went through. The second one was when my brother and I had to separate, because if we weren't going to separate, we were going to fail, and I wasn't going to have that happen. Both incidents are common in family structures,
Right.
at least to my knowledge.
Of course they are.
And yeah, and you have to learn to get over that, because the goal that for me, the goal is to extend, have something that we're 57 years old now. Okay, the business is 57. I want to make it go another 57. I'm not going to be around, but can the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever it takes, can the brand Buckley survive? And I'm determined to do my part. So if you see me hanging around the shop and being part of the shop and all that stuff, that's because I'm fine tuning it. I'm working with my associates, my team members,
Sure.
my family. It's in my blood. I don't know how else to describe it. That it's part of my normal life. So
Yeah,
I'll
no,
shut
that's
up.
great. No, that's good. No, that's all good. I mean, and especially with Jim having that type of experience of being through it
Yeah,
himself and selling to his sons, you
yeah, well, yeah.
understand that now. I mean, that gives some really good common ground. Jim's been down the road before. I come from a family-run
Mm-hmm.
business with my brother, right? My brother and my wife, and we still own our shop. And in fact, I was in
Yeah,
this morning. I was in for a little bit this morning. I normally go in for a couple hours each week to spend time with my team. And it's funny though that yeah, I mean, you sometimes have to have those difficult conversations. In fact, one of our brothers is no longer. We're really close, but he no longer works for us because it couldn't fit the way that we wanted it to.
right,
We tried, we tried for a long time, but we're both happier now that he's no longer involved. I mean, he's happy and we're
yeah.
happy, and it's like we still get together and spend time together doing fun things. So I bet, Jim, you've had some pretty good
That's
counsel
good.
for him, haven't you, on dealing with those things? You don't have the emotion.
Yeah, I can see the bigger picture. I'm outside. I'm kind of up above, and just I see everything, and when you're in the trenches like Greg is, day to day, it's hard to see the big picture sometimes. But yeah, we share the same struggles.
Yeah, well, and you've been down the road, and once again, not having that emotion. I never will forget one time I was really upset with my brother. His name's Chad, and we'd had some disagreement about something. And Kevin, who had been my coach at the time, and he's like, "Well, you need to stop and take a deep breath." He's like, "You remember what you told me your mom and dad said, right?" And I said, "Yep." He said, "You got to remember that, because my mom and dad made us promise when we started this business that they said that you guys have to." why we want to still have our family get-togethers. You guys have to continue to get along with each other, even when the business is at the end of the day, in other words. And Kevin brought that back up to me, and I was like, darn it, Kevin, you jerk. Don't tell me that. I'm going to go tell Chad what I think, but I mean, that's where that coach comes in, because it's it's a 40,000 foot view is what we always joke about. It's not emotion. It's black and white. It's like, man, it's okay. Deep breath,
Yeah.
let's look at the facts.
Well,
Yeah.
a question, if we're doing, we're on this interview and this talk, I'm always curious about, because it does gnaw at me sometimes, is do you ever think about where it failed, where the relationship with a sibling had failed, when you start off as, you've got these high hopes, you've got this thing you want to create, and then all of a sudden it starts to deteriorate, and you realize where the strength of the partnership is and the weaknesses. And then all of a sudden you got to say, okay, this isn't going to work, and that point in time that goes, if I don't do something, we're all going down,
Right.
and that's, I think that's what I think about every day. Cause I love my brother.
Right.
But
Of
we
course.
really, and to be totally transparent and honest, we don't talk. We don't, it's a fractured relationship. It really is. And I'm not no sympathy. It is what it is, and it's not like it doesn't happen anywhere else. But you still have that love of a sibling. I mean, that's never going to go away, because you're blood, right? But I get so upset in a sense, because I looked at the young man and I said, "Man, oh man!" I said, "You got so much potential, right?" And it just didn't happen. And you're always saying, "Well, could I have done something different to make it happen?" But so
It's not all about the money, but then it is all about the money, because if a shop can't be profitable due to dysfunction, then nobody wins. So we have to stay profitable, and we have to do what we need to do to be profitable.
At
So
the end of the
yeah,
day, and you have those open conversations, and it's not personal. That was the biggest thing I had to learn with my brother Ryan. That's his name. He was our youngest brother, and he loved to blow money. I'll never forget, one day we didn't have enough money to make payroll, and he went and bought sticky tires for one of our rock buggies. And he comes in and he shows, he's wheeling these tires in, and I'm like, we just talked this morning about not money for payroll. What'd you do? He's like, well, the guy had a great deal. It was $2,500 for these tires. And I was just like, I was beside myself, because we didn't have money for payroll, but it's one of those things in his world that was really important, was putting these
right,
sticky tires on the buggy. And I was just in shock. But it took enough of those times where of just having to have those difficult conversations with him, and had to do what was right for everybody. He ended up leaving because of the fact that we put so many restraints on him spending money. We had to have 3 signatures on everything, but it's just one of those things. And it's hard when you're a partner in a business, but it's what had to happen to help to regulate, because we still have to protect the business. If the business is there, nobody has a job, and all the employees we have, everybody's gone. And so, I mean, I still look that same way when I'm dealing with because my brother and I still work together, and we still butt heads every once in a while. And I still have to always think about what's best for the business. Our relationship's solid, and it will be. And I was going to show this a minute ago. My dad used to tell us, he says, friends come and go, but family's forever. And I was like, at the time, I hated hearing that from my dad. But it's like, I mean, he used to just tell us, it's like, you know what? You guys have to get along with each other. You have to. He goes, you don't have a choice. You're with each other forever. And it's like, so when we dealt with Ryan, we really had to work with that and do the best we could, put the stops in place, and just be like, hey,
yeah,
he used to discount everything. And I'm like, I'm a discounter too,
mm,
but this is how we don't eat, buddy. This is why we don't have money for this. And things worked out. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear you guys aren't talking. It's one of those things that
yeah.
it's hard stuff,
Time,
but
time should heal all
yeah,
wounds.
it
Let's put it
will.
that way. Should. Well,
Yeah,
and it'll come around. But until then, I let him have his space. I'm always open for him, and he knows it. It's just that, like I said, if I'm there, if he needs me, and he'll always be part of my life. There's no question. We just go on our ways. That's all.
of course.
So
That's part of, what you got to
yeah.
do, but you're a high I, aren't you,
Hmm.
in the disc assessment?
I couldn't tell you what letter I am or what animal section I should be.
That's
I
good.
never like, am I a wolf, an eagle? I don't know. I'm Greg.
No,
That's
it's
all
all
I can
good. It
tell
just
you.
means you really care
So,
about people and you like, being an influencer,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
a good thing. It's not a bad thing at
I
all.
do.
So,
I think it's really important that we do care about people, especially in today's employment market. People are the generations that we are working with, are in lack of discipline and direction. I think direction more than discipline.
okay.
They may have grown up with a single parent, maybe no parents. Their life has been, without a direction in some cases. They're influenced by people who are, you know, from Hollywood superstars to musical artists, and the influence that's out there isn't what maybe we have grown up with, leaders instead of influencers, I suppose. And the trick of it is for us. It's not a trick. It's really what we should be doing is that we should be mentoring these young people because, in my experience, and it goes back to like I said, well, I know we have family, but here at shop number two, I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a single family member. I had to hire people that I never knew before, and I've proven to myself that my style is legitimate. I've taken people who have come from different directions, and in all fairness and all transparency, and I did not realize this until we were a team, is that every one of my technicians were going through a substance situation. They're in, I don't say rehab, but they're recovering. That's the word they use, recovering. And we discuss this a lot. And
Right.
they're not active. They're recovering. So that means that uh, they're solid. They know how not to go back, but to have uh, a steady person that they can rely on, kind of like a father figure in a sense. They they really do turn around. I mean,
Yeah.
you take three guys that you never knew before,
Right.
you bring them together, and in 1 year's time, you have created $1 million business.
It's a good feeling.
You've done $1 million. Yeah. And I mean, I look at that and I said, okay, well, I never, I never look for things, but maybe I am doing something right, with being able to be that guide. And I think that's what more shop owners really need to do. And I believe that is a solid trend
Right.
that we are not just in automotive, but in most small businesses and even in larger corporations. We're seeing the lack of not only education, like the 1+1 = 2 type stuff, but actually the way you should work, the work ethic, and you know, we as the owners have to start saying, all right, well, there's not a great talent pool out there. If I take away this person, I'm probably either going to get an equal or a lesser person.
Of course.
So why continue to throw the bathwater out? When you're just going to get the same baby. So you go and you mentor and help these people, and then they become incredibly loyal. And then you got to start working their productivity. And then you start, like for me, I had to go to these guys,
Sure.
and we just crested the million mark. And we went to dinner, we celebrated, we had, just a good time, and we talked. And then I had to say, okay, boys, the first level is done. The second level is going to be much tougher. And so just today, before I came up, and Jim, you might be proud of me. I don't know. I put a productivity board down below. And so I actually created one. I got a big sheet and tape and put a board up. And Matt, right now, Matt is downstairs coaching these guys on what the board is going to be used. And we're going to use tickets, hours, billable, and plus or minus. We're going to go that route just to have these guys start to see and teach them on what it's going to take to, reach that next level. So
It's great.
yeah, this is just the way that I said loving people and wanting to help them. Uh, I've always been with it. I've always been about that. So, maybe this is an
Sometimes we got to have
extension
those
of it.
hard
But
conversations, and sometimes we got to draw the line in the sand, and sometimes we got to,
yeah,
have those hard pointed
yeah,
conversations. But
we do.
it has to happen. I mean,
Well,
otherwise
it's like
you don't stay open
you
anymore.
fall down.
I mean, and
Correct.
it
And
starts. Yeah,
I mean, Jim will tell you that we have a tech here that is a little bit lower in productivity, and I got one in Wilmington as well. But so today, like I said, just to show him that what we're doing, it's not to penalize or reprimand; it's to show his competency and where he can improve upon and the expectations. So that's one of the things, and that we're going
it's
to
great.
roll with, and so from there. So yeah. So
So when you said Jim, you'll be proud of me. Jim, are you proud of him?
Absolutely. And Greg, tell us how far away your second location is.
85 miles,
She's,
a long
yeah.
way.
So that's a little bit of the challenge for
Yeah,
Greg. The other besides that challenge, in growing pains, as anybody knows, it's multi-story. You got to get to a certain level of volume before you can bring in the next level of management or
sure.
an extra service advisor that can cover for vacation time or so. Greg's really pulling double or triple duty right now, training and helping train the team and that. So plus the distance, Greg goes on Tuesdays and comes back on what, Friday, Greg? Thursday?
Yeah, I leave Tuesday morning and I return to Wilmington Friday morning. If
Yeah.
I'm not staying down here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's
so
a journey.
yeah. So, but no, I'm proud of him. He puts a lot of time in, and
Of course it
I know
does.
it'll pay the rewards for him, but he's got to pay the price right now.
You got to pay those dues,
Hmm. Yeah.
You got to pay the success tax. I think that's something that a lot of younger
That's
people and don't
exactly it.
understand is it's like you got to,
Right.
you know.
I like that success. Yeah,
I messed it up like
success
passing,
tax.
Greg. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
You got to pay your success
No,
tax.
I
You know.
exactly. I like that one.
There's no when we talk about KPIs and making a profit, every client's kind of different. Some clients say their shop really heavy on parts and they want to keep their parts GP down, but they make it up on their labor GP.
Right.
Some guys like a higher parts GP. The bottom line is what your overall GP. So, but Greg does a great job. They brought a new software system in house too, which,
Cool.
all this going on, new software, second location, additions. I mean, he tore up his garage floor and, installed new hoist, put an addition on for office. So
Renovated the
he,
house.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Renovated the
renovated the
personal
house.
house. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
and this was
and he tries to golf once a week. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. You got to go out and enjoy life a little bit, especially with. Oh my goodness, I can't
that's true.
imagine doing a software
Uh,
change along with all that other stuff. And oh my goodness,
it was. I don't even know. I'll explain to you that at the time when all of this was going on, the second location coming available, and we agreeing to it, that we had already committed to the renovations of number one,
right?
and then we had the home renovation going on, and all of these projects were delayed for one reason or another, whether the
Yeah,
contract couldn't make the house, weather at the shop, and
sure.
then this come on. So literally, and the good part is that we got through everything. Now, the serious side of that is in January when pretty much everything was complete except for the renovations of the two new lifts,
Right,
is I really had a health situation. I mean, I really, my stress level got up. I had hypertension,
right.
and I had to kick back. And I literally had to go to the guys, my teams, and say, listen, I'm done. I
Yeah,
said, I'm not going to be back and forth. I'm not going to do this. If I have to close a day or two, my health is more important.
of course.
And after that, things were calming down, and everything has its your chaos, and then you slowly see the end of the, or
Yeah,
you see the light in the tunnel,
Of course.
and you go through all that, and then the finally just last month in June, we crapped the bed because a simple project of two new lifts, which
Right.
were 2 weeks. Jim will tell you, we had it budgeted, we had it scheduled, we had everything planned, we had money saved, we had all of it together. Two storms of 5 inches of rain in less than 3 days apart flooded the shop, took out the concrete pad, and delayed everything while the contractors took it. We had to spend an extra, we were almost 32% over budget because we had to
Right.
put a sump system in. We weren't getting, there's no productivity out of the bay.
Yeah.
And we're down, we ended 38% negative for June at
Right.
shop number one. In the meantime, you still got bills to pay.
Of course
And
you do.
and number two, fortunately, has been fairly steady. It's been
Right.
okay. We have a dip here or there. Um, but they're the kind of things that you go through. And
Yeah.
I've said it before, if you're not prepared to take that challenge or have that challenge happen and come through it, then
Right.
man, you might want to stick with that regular 9 to 5 that you might be having.
Well,
So
yeah, for sure. So first off, you doing better?
I am feeling better. Yeah, I mean, I'm back on track. I health wise, that honestly January, I was way overweight, and I
Right.
and I made an effort. That's it. So I'm down 35 pounds. I'm out
Awesome.
walking and I'm exercising at least 3 to 4 times a week. Eating a lot less, taking care of business the way that I should, and again, prioritizing
Yeah.
my health because
You have to.
and you're the captain of the ship.
Yes.
If you're not there to be the captain, then you ain't gonna have a ship.
Right.
So
Yeah. We got to
you
see,
need.
you
So
forget though,
that's
when you're in the battle, and
you
you're
do
you're
when you're
going
in the
after those
battle.
goals,
Absolutely.
and you're like got all the stuff you're trying to
Yeah.
achieve, but you got to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the
Without a
day, you're not
doubt.
there to help. What's gonna, all this is pointless.
Yeah, you're not there for your family.
Right.
That's the biggest worry. Patty was really concerned, as she should be. That hey, you got to get to the doctors. You got to do this. You
Yeah.
got to do that. And you have those serious talks when you're together. And it's I can't have you not hear that
Right.
kind of thing. Again, it's the responsibility that I take very personally.
I
It's my
know.
heart and soul. If you can ask me today, tomorrow, my family, having something for them is the most important thing I can do in my life right now.
Great
Is
thing.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Family's
Yeah,
important to you. Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing better.
yeah,
Very important
yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's good. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
take it Jim's helped you on your
So
succession plan, right?
yeah, yeah. We're talking we're talking about things. I mean, it's still like all over.
Yeah. Jim's like, yeah, I've
Trying to
talked
trim it
to
down.
him.
Yeah.
Not a high priority today.
Yeah. No, it's all
Yeah.
good.
Right. Right.
No,
Yeah.
it's just something that's been a big topic around Elite a lot lately. We had that good shop operator that passed away in January. Crashed plane, and it was a big awakening for that whole family because all of a sudden, the wife is going, I don't know anything about automotive repair. I know nothing, and yet I'm now supposed to be running this business. There's nobody in place to help with
Hmm.
it. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
especially I see a health scare like that with you. It's like, yeah, you got to take care of yourself. Got to look ahead. You know.
Hmm. Oh, without doubt.
Yeah.
You can do all the paperwork you want. I mean, we've got our wills and we've got our like notes and stuff. The will's solid, and we've got our insurances. And I keep
Yeah,
telling
of course.
Patty, I go, listen, you're fine. You might not, you don't need to run the business as long as Scott and the boys are there.
Yeah.
But you're fine. You don't need to worry about it because that was one of her things about. It's funny. Um, you try to teach or educate about accumulating wealth
Right.
and trying to describe, well, how do you think we're going to live past, our 70s or our 80s? And I said, we need to have a plan in place. And
Yeah.
I said, we have commercial properties, we have this and that. And, for her, it's like, I don't want to be involved with any of
Right.
that.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, you're going to have some
Yeah.
understanding of what we're doing. So that's been the hard part too, because they're very risk averse. She
Of
is,
course.
and maybe other spouses are too. And a guy like me, all right,
Yeah.
I'll take a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. You got to take care of yourself. Once again, I know I said it a minute ago, but you have to. You got to take those
oh
times
yeah,
to,
got to.
not to sound like some hippie from the 60s or some, weirdo, but I mean, meditation, all those things are really important just to clear your head and just to focus
Oh
in,
man, I can tell you. I
I
can tell you
mean,
that you're right. I mean, God, I'm doing chiropractic. I'm doing acupuncture. And yoga, all that
yeah,
stuff now. And that's another thing. Patty will go, man, you never liked any of that before. You thought differently about it. I go, well,
yeah,
I might have been younger then, didn't need it. But now I'm
right.
like, hey, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes you feel better, and that
So
clarity is a huge thing. Just
it
quiet out the
does.
noise,
It does make you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Jim's probably like, "What, you
it's a
weirdo?
change of
Stop it!"
life. I know, right? That's what I keep looking at him, and it's like, okay,
No, not at all.
it's the new wave. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I got a
It's
question for you though. I mean, to anybody that's listening to this that comes from a family-run business, I mean, what do you think is a good piece of advice that they can take home, with their own business when it comes to dealing with family?
Are they already in the family or potential coming into family?
Whatever. I mean, whatever you think somebody would want to hear. I mean, like Greg and I, where we have family members that work with us, and things may not go well, or we got to watch out for the integrity of the business. I mean, what's some recommendation about dealing with those relationships?
So I have three sons that all
Yeah.
worked in the business from time to time, going through high school, college, and then afterwards, and none of them are in the business today. They all, my job as a father was to help them find their passion and
Sure.
support them in that way. I've never, I mean, there are some family members, family business. I know that they want they want the family in there. That's what they
Sure.
want. That's your destiny. That's your job. And I have a different mindset on that a little bit. A lot of times I know that, I've worked with businesses that have family members that aren't happy and things aren't going good. And it's a two-way. If the owner's not happy, the family member's not happy. You know what I mean? It's not like
Of
just one
course.
side is not happy. And, I mean, I had a brother that, my oldest brother that worked with me for a couple of years. And, I finally said to him, I said, I know you don't like what you're doing.
Right.
I get frustrated. Why don't you go find out what your life desire is
Yeah.
and go for it, and he did that. And he's a happy guy, so it's honest communication. It's not letting it get to the level where it wants to break you or the relationship. It's
Right.
being a little proactive over reactive in the situation. But, when I grew up, my dad was old school, and first thing he said is, "No women are involved in the business,
Right.
zero." I
Yeah.
got mother and daughter and sisters, so that we never had women in the business. So I don't know if that would go today, but
Yeah.
so, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's the dynamics, it's the position.
Of course.
After I bought my dad out, my wife came to work into our business, and one thing I made sure of is that I wasn't her supervisor. I wasn't her boss.
That's
Okay.
wise words there.
Yeah, we had an office manager, and
Yeah.
she wanted to work in the business, and she didn't have to answer to me, and that was probably the best piece of advice. Have some type of buffer between you and other family members.
Right. I think that's great advice. You got to make sure, once again, having that early conversation when you know that something's not going well, you need to address and start working on it. Don't let it build up until it explodes, because then it's emotion.
Mhm.
Once again, we can't take it personal. We got to just address it as business, and address it when you first start seeing the behavior, because otherwise,
Yeah,
once again, things fester and blow. But yeah.
Mhm.
I
true.
think one of the best advice I ever got though was from Kevin. And Kevin told me, he said, "You and Ginger love what you do, and that's great. Ginger's my wife, and she works at Barney Brothers and Elite." And Kevin told me, he's like, "Be careful when you go home at night. Do not talk about the shop." He goes, Otherwise, what'll happen is," he goes, "you're going to build your life around talking about the shop. So then at night, when you come home, you're wound up, the kids are there, and you're talking about the shop. And then guess what? When the kids leave, you won't have anything left to talk about." He goes, "You will come a day," and as he's right, I'm no longer at Barney Brothers as much as I used to be, and come home, and if all you've ever talked about is just shop and business stuff, then when the kids are gone and the shop's gone, business is gone, what do you have? You don't know anything about each other anymore.
Yeah.
And at the time in my life, it was a
That's
big
really,
thing for us, you know, because it
yeah.
changed my
Well,
life. So because we all of a sudden started building on relationships with each other, and made sure that that person I fell in love with, that I sit and talk to all the time, that we're still doing things outside of those businesses and things, so that we still got that relationship, you know. I still tell my clients that, like,
I,
make sure you're still paying attention to them as people. So
yeah,
yeah.
very important. I mean, we went through where when in the '90s when I just purchased Dad and everything, and we're running the business. Patty was with us doing the bookkeeping,
Right.
and Patty's always been a stay-at-home mom. That was my goal. That's what we
Yeah.
wanted to do. So she's been a stay-at-home mom. And when I asked her to do the books, of course she begrudgingly said yes, but I don't know a lot about it, but I'm willing to help. Okay, so the problem is that her schedule was not equal to my schedule. So I couldn't call her up at 9 o'clock in the morning and go, "Hey, what about this invoice for this vendor and all this other stuff?" Because she was busy with the kids.
Sure.
And then when she was wanting to work on the books, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm coming home. And when I come home, I don't want to talk business.
Sure.
So we got into this. Well, if you're not going to tell me what you need or help me to tell you what you need, and I don't know what I'm doing, we got a problem.
Right.
So we lasted about 2 months. And I said, that's it. I'm done. We're not going to do this because it's going to separate us and
Sure.
our family more than what this business is going to gain for us.
Right.
So from that point on, I had bookkeepers, and or now we have my sister, who is pretty much like our CFO, as you might call it. But
Right.
yeah, I've ran into guys who have their spouses, and if you're if you have mature kids, or you're empty nesters,
Yeah.
I think it can work. But outside of that, I don't know how. I just don't know how they do it. I'm sure they have their ways,
Got to
but
pay attention to it,
there could be
you know?
some really, yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to talk. I mean, when I talk business to Patty, it's not business. It's how's the business working for us. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a
Of
different
course.
type of conversation. It's not numbers. It's like, okay, where are we? What are we doing? How do we want to proceed? And she'll give me insight. Like I said, well, what do you think about this situation? And
Yeah.
then she becomes a confidant, and
Right. Of course.
that's good. That's okay. So
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having that shop top at home too. It's just we got to make sure it doesn't dominate everything. Just because my wife and I
right.
very passionate about it. We loved what we do, and we love helping people and doing
Hmm.
these things, and just getting at home and talking about it all the time. You just got to be careful, you know.
Hmm.
I
You
mean,
do. Yep, you do.
it's yeah. Well, cool. Well, guys,
Yeah.
we're out of time. So, do you guys have any final words that
Okay.
you want to share? Anything that closing thoughts before I wrap us up?
I just wondered what you're going to title this session here. Family business, family dynamics.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's been great working for Elite and with all the clients, but especially Greg. Been a treat for me, and I probably get as much from Greg as I give him. I mean
yeah,
he gives a lot to me too. So thanks, Greg, for being a great client
Yeah.
and
Well,
being committed to the process. A lot of guys will hire and then they don't follow through, and it's really nice when a client like you follows through with what you need to do to be a better business owner and husband and
yeah.
overall person.
Well, I'm pretty choked up about that, Jim. Thank you. I appreciate that. I I don't set out to make impressions on anybody. I just try to be me all the time, 100%. I believe that if we showcase good energy and uh, stuff like that, then we naturally get attracted to others who have the same type of situation, same type of energies and stuff. Philosophically, um, but being with you and being with the elite and knowing all the amazing, I mean to tell you, amazing uh, groupers from 360 to pro service. I don't think there's one that, I never think I'm an equal to any of them because it gives me the opportunity to continue to learn from everybody. And it's just incredible what this organization does for shop owners without all the hoopla. That's so refreshing, because for me, I don't need entertainment. I don't need a circus to teach me the business. It's just something, again, no disrespect for those who might be listening. I'm not critiquing anything. What I'm saying is that anything more than the one-to-one that I share with my coach, Jim, or that I work with the others within the confines of Elite and the colleague, is enough for me. And then that makes me successful. And then that's fine. Anything else above that is, I think, not necessary. So.
Well, thank you guys both for being here. Honestly,
Sure.
as I've told Jim before, I mean, I really have always looked up to you, even though I haven't known you. I know about your results as well with your clients and all these things. And I mean, the great reputation that you have, Jim, I really appreciate you taking time to be here. It means a lot. Honestly, it does. So
yeah.
I know it's out of your comfort zone to come in and do this type of stuff anyway, that you're not the guy that likes the spotlight at all, I know. But when he said yes, I was like, this is awesome, man. I really feel fortunate that Jim's going to come on. So thank you, Jim. And, Greg,
You're welcome.
You know how I feel about you too, my friend. And, in fact, I'm going to ask you this question. Greg and I were talking about this earlier, and I asked Greg, so Greg is a big music guy. He just loves music, and he's always posting about music he likes. And so I had to ask him what his number one album would be if he was stranded on a desert island. So you've had a little bit of time to think now, Greg. Your subconscious has processed this. What do you think? What's your answer?
Well, I still go with it's hard because, like I said, there are two defining albums for me, and they would be neck and neck. But if you give me the scenario of an island, I still would have to say there's two. Ranking wise, Allman Brothers Live at the Fillmore East is probably the most dominating album. But I really like the Rolling Stones, and the album Some Girls is probably
great album,
the finest. It was in '78. It defined my years in high school. It was raunchy. Their thing on SNL to support that tune, to support that album, they were the bad boys of rock and roll, and they still are. But that album is so good that it probably would just maybe a little bit above Allman Brothers. It's one of the things. So,
that's awesome.
Here's my answer.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Greg, for sharing that. Jim, do you have a favorite album you want to leave us with? I don't know if you're much of a music guy, but
NPR, talk radio. Let's sorry.
That's awesome. No, that's great. That's good. That's fine. We're all made differently, So that's a great answer. Yeah. You made a comment the other day on one of our meetings about all the guitars in the background, and everybody's, I got my 68, Telecaster right here, and you're not noticing about all those different things. And I was curious if you're a music guy, so that answers it. But yeah. It's a great thing. Okay. Thank you guys again for being here. And thank you, audience members, for tuning in and listening to these two rock stars talk about, business and family relationships. And we appreciate everybody being here. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.
Well, thank you again, Jim, and thanks again, Darrin. All right.
Of course.
Appreciate it, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Elite Radio, the podcast for repair shop owners by repair shop owners. If you're looking for help in your automotive repair shop, then reach out to Elite. We provide coaching and peer groups, training for your service advisors and managers, and countless complimentary resources, and a whole lot more. Visit EliteWorldwide.com today, and we'll see you next time.